You are about to enter the No Spin Zone. The Factor begins right now.
So anyway, what I'm here to talk to you about today is religion and God. It'll be interesting to see how many people just dropped off at that part of the video. But seriously guys, it's been like 2,000 years, especially for you Christians out there, it's time to move on. But what is the deal with religion? Here's what I see. Here's what I see religion as doing to society right now. It's holding us back. We're stuck to ideas that we came up with like 2,500 years ago to bring some sort of order to the world, to bring an understanding to things that we didn't understand, and to create laws that people would have to follow, because not only would you like go to jail, but you'd fucking go in eternal fire too. But here's the thing, man, now we know all those things that like we created gods and stuff for, like we know why those things happen now. We know that the sun is not some dude in a chariot. We know that the volcano isn't some, you know, dude named Vulcan getting pissed off. We know that lightning doesn't come from the angry fists of Zeus. We know more about the entire world as a whole, and if you look at the actual reasons that religion was created, or rather that gods were created, we no longer have reasons. Those reasons are no longer valid, basically. And then after we created gods, we created like entire institutions where people would get together and sing all kinds of creepy songs and like rejoice in the fact that we all believe in this thing, which doesn't even make sense. Like, when did it become like, oh, here's the explanation for the sun, so we have to worship that now? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And okay, so whatever, that was 2,500 years ago. And longer. I mean, there were other gods and semi-religions before that point in time. But the thing is, like, now is now, and that was 2,500 years ago or longer. Seriously, guys, it's time to move on. It's time to fucking let that shit go. Here's the fucking proof right here that you were wrong and I'm right. Look at how many religions there are in the world right now that believe in many different versions of gods. A lot of people out there will say like, oh, they're all looking at the same God, they're just calling him by different names. Fuck you. That is not the case. Here's the truth. You know, the God that the Mormons believe in is clearly different than the God that Catholics believe in. The God that Catholics believe in is clearly different than the gods or whatever intergalactic emperors and shit that Scientologists believe in. So get that shit out of your head right now. We're not all talking about the same God, you know. Middle Eastern people and Islamists and stuff aren't talking about the same God that Christians and Catholics are talking about in America. It's just not. They're spreading different messages, okay? They're responsible for different things in history, and they have different ideologies. They're not the same persons or entities, whatever the fuck you want to call them. So here's the thing, there are many different gods and ideologies existing like all at the same time right now. That doesn't make any sense. So that's just one little thing. Like, how can you sit there and say I'm right when there's so many other people, way more people, that don't believe in the same thing that you do? But that's not really like the final nail in the coffin. It's not even the first nail in the coffin, okay? What you have to think about is, why do I believe these things? Well, it's because you were brought up to believe these things, or you were converted later in life or you were converted later in life to believe these things. And then you have the people that'll say like, well, what does it hurt to believe these things? Because it teaches you to be good, and da-da-da-da-da. I'll tell you what it hurts, because it makes you dumb. That's why. It makes you dumb. You're dumber for believing in shit you can't see, touch, feel, or whatever with any of your senses, because you think that faith is important. Don't get me wrong, some sorts of faith can be important at times, like faith in your fellow man, faith in your friends and things, but those are based off of evidence. You know, you don't trust your friends because you just do because they're, you know, they're supernatural. No. You trust your friends because they've shown you in the past that they can be trusted, and if they haven't, you're dumb for trusting them. And then people who believe in different ideologies will look at people who believe in like different, you know, theisms and say like, oh, that sounds dumb. You know, Christians will make fun of Scientologists all the time because they think Scientology sounds crazy. Or Catholics will make fun of Mormonism all the time because they think that sounds crazy. Like, oh, God lives on a planet Kolob? That's nuts, because God doesn't live on a planet. He lives in an ethereal realm called heaven, where everything is like built to be paradise. Yeah, because one's more crazy than the other, right? Here's the thing. You know, these people who are blowing themselves up in the Middle East, and fuck here in America too, I'm sure somewhere, you know, those are because of religion's poisons. You know, religion is such a powerful force, you know, when you're talking about faith, that it makes people do crazy shit like that. So religion has never helped anything. Well, maybe it has helped, you know, thousands of years ago when people were like primitive and you needed that sort of like otherworldly damnation to like make them not rape and kill people. But at the end of the day, it didn't work then, and it sure as hell doesn't work now, because people are still raping and killing people. And like a lot of people say, like, oh, they must be atheists. Well, no, they believed in God. Well, they were still atheists because they didn't believe correctly. And it's like, well, dude, how about all of those Catholic priests that were raping children and stuff? Like, just none of, you don't need religion to be moral, etc., etc., etc. Arguments that you've heard probably before, especially if you're in like an atheist sort of community. But here's the fact: all of the foundations for ever having believed in any sort of gods are no longer valid. You know, we can explain the world around us now. Yeah, we're still figuring some things out, but that's a process of time and science. So get over it, and I'll catch you guys next week. Let me know what you think in the comments box below, or, you know, don't, and go fuck yourself.